Okay, if you're still following along with me and you're doing okay, very well done. We're going to take things a step further, and it gets a little bit tricky now. We're going to start thinking about how we can make our bird change its position. Now, we've already got a variable stored for our bird's y position, and we call it bird y. So at the moment, we just set it to a standard position and it stays there for the whole game. We need to introduce the idea of gravity. Now that sounds quite horrendous to start with, but it's not too bad actually when we get going. The first thing we know is, ignoring the fact that the bird can flap, we'll imagine it's just a constantly falling bird for now, that the bird does need to have the effect of gravity in which it will move down. So let's start with seeing if we can do that. Let's have a new sub, shall we, which is just to change the bird's y position. Let's go down here and just scroll down a little bit. So a new sub, of course not in our while loop, this is just everything, the jobs that keep repeating in our while loop. Sub change bird y. Quite a mouthful, but I think it's very clear. So it changes the bird's y position. Okay. And for example, we could start off by just saying, well, bird y equals whatever bird y was. Now if we want it to go down, we need to add to its y position. So I'm just going to say whatever bird y was plus 1. End sub. Now of course this will never run at the moment, so let's just go and add into our while loop another job. We need to make sure we change the values of the x position, and we also need to change the values of the bird's y position. So change bird y. Now we also, every time we loop around, we redraw the two tubes into the right places, but I guess we also need to draw the bird as well. So shapes dot bird. Oh, sorry, dot move. We want to move the bird, and we'd like to move bird, and we'd like to move it to whatever bird x is, and whatever bird y is, which of course will change as our game goes on. And then we run our change bird. So hopefully now it will run through, draw our bird in the center as we did up further higher up, and then it will say, right, draw the tubes in the first position, draw the bird in its first position, and then change the tube x and change the bird y, and then we'll go and redraw them again with the new bird x and with the new tube x, and things will start to change. So let's just go and run that now. Hopefully, yeah, our bird starts falling. Now the only downside to our bird is it falls and dies and it never comes back, which isn't great. The other downside at the moment is if we wanted to complicate things further and say that, well actually, what if we wanted to change how fast it falls? And this is going to be necessary. Now we're not actually talking about changing its y position, but actually how fast it's making it change. So rather than have this set as 1, why don't we create another new variable called bird y change? And it's just the rate at which the bird changes. For now I'm going to put this variable here just for our purposes. So bird y change. And it's just how much the bird's changing by each iteration. So bird y change equals 1, and then I can change this to bird y change, and that should have no effect on our program now. It should do exactly what it did previously. We should just see the bird fall. The benefit of this is we can just change that to 2, and I assume it will fall twice as fast. Yep. And I won't bother changing it to 50 because I don't think we'll ever see it. So this idea works brilliantly. Now the way this is going to be particularly useful is when we start to say that we want the bird to flap and go up again, we can change how the bird y is changing. Now of course, if the bird y change was to become a negative number, such as -1, and we watch the reaction, we'd see that the bird goes up. So here comes the really challenging bit. How can we make it so that when we were to, for example, press the keyboard, spacebar maybe, that the bird would increase its y position and then after a set amount of time, it would then start to decrease its exposition. We're going to have a look at that next.